Hi, everyone. Harry here to talk about the anticipated charges in the federal indictment, the second one that is coming against Donald Trump. Let's just start here because you're hearing if or reading in any of the coverage words along the lines of it looks likely or it often follows. Let me cut to the chase on the most important thing. Donald Trump has gotten a target letter and been afforded the opportunity by today to go to the grand jury and tell his story. He will not take that opportunity. It would end in, it would be disastrous for him even to try. And everyone knows he won't, but he's now been given the chance, and that's what happens. And two things happen in the target letter. I'll get to the second in a moment. So you can translate all the hedged coverage, looks likely, maybe soon, as the indictment is coming. It's a fact that Trump, I know of one or two cases in my career where a target letter wasn't followed by an indictment, but this couldn't be one of them for 26 reasons that we don't have to belabor for now. So if you think it's a 1-inch putt, or sorry for the sports metaphor, it's 99%, you can nudge that to 100. An indictment of Donald Trump is coming. All right, what will it look like? Because there's been speculation for weeks, if not more, about the likely contours of an indictment. How much of the sort of series of 5 or 6 post-election schemes will Jack Smith try to encompass? If he goes very big, does that make it near impossible to get a trial before November 2024 because it will sort of kick up so many legal issues? If it goes too small, does it cease to really get at the heart of what was so wicked and pernicious and singularly historic, the worst, most treacherous action by any president in American history? Does it fail to get at that? And the sort of loose consensus from the commentator class, I guess I'm one of them, was that 3 statutes would likely be involved. One, well, let me do the first 2 first. So the false electors scheme, there's been a lot of focus on that. And what does that consist of? Well, as we just learned, say in Michigan, people in the Republican Party with what we now know to be the sort of orchestration and stewardship of Rudy Giuliani, the election committee head, Michael Rowan, and the deputy and others did these phony baloney electors, sent them out to Congress, at least in some instances. Let me do a quick asterisk here. These charges are going to be conspiracy. And an important point about conspiracy is you agree to do something unlawful and you take an action in furtherance of it. It doesn't matter if the unlawful objective is achieved. So, that the false electors don't ultimately do their, show up, or that they aren't counted and the like, doesn't matter. It's a conspiracy. And the conspiracy, so is first the false electors, and that's going to be okay. Well, let me take a step back and say, so he got a target letter, and that means A, he's going to be indicted, B, he's given a chance to testify, and C, there's an identification of the anticipated charges by statute number. And this is, they don't publicize it, but Trump, people within Trump's camp, with, as soon as the letter goes, the reporters go in a scrum and a mad dash to try to get at what the letter says precisely. There was first some initial reporting in Bloomberg, Rolling Stone, that never struck me as very plausible, or it seemed seemed to have holes in it. Indeed, it did. Indeed, it wasn't plausible. Indeed, there was mistakes, maybe even misdirection from the Trump team. What we now seem to have is three statutes. At least this is the latest from the New York Times, and I think it's probably solid. And they are 18 U.S.C. 371, 18 U.S.C. 1512, and 18 U.S.C. 241, the surprise entry in the deck. So we saw the first two coming, and 371 means a conspiracy to defraud who? The United States government, and that's the false electors. So in this effort to substitute the true electors who were pledged to Joseph Biden, who won the votes in respective states, the Trump himself conspired, and we'll see with whom. That's also going to be a really important point when the indictment comes, and maybe the people will be charged, maybe they'll be unindicted co-conspirators, but Trump does not act alone. And anyway, the elector scheme is going to be charged as a conspiracy to defraud the United States, basically, out of the government's entitlement to a proper count and the proper president. So it's a little bit odd to think of the U.S. as the victim, but that's how it is, and we've seen that coming for a long time. No surprise. Next, 18 U.S.C. 1512. That's a general obstruction statute, and that's why you've had different reporting that make it seem like this is witness tampering and the like, because 1512 is a long list of different kinds of offenses. But I think it's very likely that what we're going to see is 1512 C2, which is an attempt to obstruct an official proceeding. And this is the whole conspiracy trying to strong-arm Pence, cajole, give him phony baloney law, all that in an effort to obstruct, to delay, to keep Pence from doing his straightforward constitutional duty, and to get, the basic scheme at that point. We are, sort of toward the end, and he's running out of options, but is to get Pence basically to create ambiguity, chaos, throw it back into the legislatures, and for that you needed to obstruct in the sense of delaying the official proceeding. Those two things we knew were coming. Now, the question is, what about the actual melee itself on the 6th, the very final effort when all else failed, the kill Mike Pence scenario? That has been charged. There's a real argument that was an insurrection, an attempt to overthrow the government by force, which is an unbelievably serious crime under the guidelines just in history and the like. But very importantly, a crime that the United States has now charged and proven and convicted several people of the Stuart Rhodeses of the world and the biggest leaders on the ground. But so there was a lot of speculation that there'd be a similar charge that would go to Trump, some kind of insurrection. But as we've talked about before, that was always the most tenuous. There's a lot of potential political speech defenses. He does say, it's obviously contrived, but he says peacefully at one point in his speech. So while it's easy enough to prove that the marauders and Stuart Rhodes, went there to do no good and to do violence, to hang that on Trump, I think the department has decided is a step too far. That really is, and there's a general adage here: if you shoot at the king, you better kill. So, I think they decided that's too far to go. A lot of commentators had expected it. I can tell you I wasn't one of them. And in general, I think my thoughts and analyses of so far have been looking pretty good. But in any event, so no specific insurrection charge, instead 241. That's the thing that surprises everyone. And that is a conspiracy to abridge, deny, or, otherwise impinge on the enjoyment of federal rights, but secured by the Constitution or by law. And it's a law passed in the Reconstruction period that really had to do with the Ku Klux Klan and trying to keep them from doing all this, nasty, including violent conduct. And there's more penalties where violence is part of it. Violent conduct to keep the newly freed slaves from voting and the like. So it's a civil rights statute, but it doesn't require that you're acting under color of law. Civil rights statutes like the neighboring one, 242, that's what the go-to statute for police brutality, but that's somebody abusing their legal governmental power. It doesn't have to be that. And so, Trump could have conspired with people here or under a law that says you can't, it's a crime to try to, it's a conspiracy statute. So to agree on the unlawful objection of trying to impinge on people's federally protected rights. Okay, we know that that's what is the third statute instead of the insurrection statute. But now speculation is rife. Brings us right up to the present minute about what is exactly the theory here. So somebody has impinged on somebody's federally protected rights. What is it? Let me say first, this statute took everyone by surprise, its inclusion, and there's a lot of scrambling, looking at old case law brought under the statute, etc. And the short answer is we're going to know damn soon when Trump is indicted, and we'll actually read the indictment. The letter just sets out the number of the U.S. code, but what's the actual theory? For that, we'll need to see the indictment. So let me tell you where I am, because it's different from where most people are, I would say. So a lot of people are saying, whose rights have been abridged? The American people's 88 million voters who they basically tried to keep a fair vote from happening. Or somewhat less, the voters in 7 states who voted for Biden. To my mind, man, that is a tough case. It's sprawling. It's got some of the same political speech problems that the insurrection would have. It's also tailor-made, it seems to me, for the Supreme Court in a few years down the line to just strike it down, saying that the theory could encompass and bring in so much of protected political conduct. And maybe most importantly, the kinds that the bilking, if you will, of the U.S. voters. That's basically what the 371 charge is about. It's conduct that's already been charged in the indictment for under a statute that's been well vetted by people in the last few weeks, and I think that is what's going to happen. So I think a big point that people are missing is this is happening instead of the insurrection. And I think that suggests that the conduct that's going to be at issue is going to be the sort of January 6th melee, but without the First Amendment and other problems of the insurrection. That suggests to me, but this is, just my speculation. My sort of first point is I'm not very sanguine about this notion that it's going to be such a huge theory, that involves sort of every voter. But whose rights were violated on January 6th? Well, many. Like you can think of the police officers who were killed, but that's a little bit harder to pin on, Trump as a conspirator. And you can think about Pence, who's badgered to doing things. He didn't have to do them. Remember, it's a conspiracy. He doesn't have to achieve, but It's pretty, to me, kind of vague and inchoate, might just say certain things. But what's that leave? It leaves the members of Congress who, remember, were cowering, under their chairs and were there to do their jobs and were kept from it in predictable ways that Trump was trying to achieve. So, and we'll know for certain. This is just my best surmise. I'm not, I wouldn't give it 90% or whatever, but I just wanted you guys to hear that why I think the kind of current conventional wisdom that it's a crime that, goes to the American people is I'm not so confident about. And my best guess is it'll have to do with January 6th itself, and the best articulation I can come up with of the victims would be the members of Congress, and the federal right involved would be basically to serve constituents and do their jobs. We will see. But it looks pretty likely that it is that will be brought, and not an insurrection statute or theory. All in all, this is, an important little nuance, but that will be solved soon. And against the huge headline, charges coming involving January 6th, they will be brought in the District of Columbia, where the judges are basically, used to Trump's hijinks. There are some of them who would move it through very quickly. The Court of Appeals over them, also used to Trump hijinks, and would move things through quickly. And I think it will likely become the new focus of the case that will very possibly go to at least trial and completion of a trial, if not appeal, before November 2024. There you have it. Big news coming, and my best surmise about the sort of fine points of the set of charges that Trump is soon to be facing. Talk to you later. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video and other Talking Feds content, please take a second to like and subscribe. Talk to you later.